Okay. So if we look at the detail of our CMMI model that we have been used to look at the maturity of business processes, we'll see that on level 1, it's really when the knowledge is just in people's heads with individuals, and they can still get the job done, but it's really sort of firefighting mode and ad hoc activities and so forth. And on level 2, the knowledge of what to do is shared by a team. On level 3, the business processes are documented and standardized. Level 4, they are managed quantitatively and they are standardized. And on level 5, it's continuous improvement in innovation. So we can see that with every level of maturity, we have a description, the characteristics. How can you recognize it? So what the characteristics are for each of these 5 levels. Most of the maturity models have 5 levels. So once we have this kind of grading sheet, we have to analyze where we are right now, look at the as-is state. So, and for that, we need an assessment method to see. Maturity model tells us how well a system could work, but now this method for assessment will tell us how are we actually doing. So I'm going to use the example from Kansas, from Grand Rapids, and this is the process that they were modeling, and this is a little bit of a description of it. And just documenting this improved the maturity of their business process from level 2 to level 3. So to look at how this works, they used a system model, and the system is now a process. So that this system model explains how something actually works, and this is an example for business process modeling. And this is what the business process model told us. We've all familiar with this BPMN 2.0, who's working, what are the swim lanes, what artifacts and documents are developed, and so. So in the analysis portion, Mike and his team used this as his model to figure out how to make improvements. And I'll give you a link to the case studies later. So then the next step in the improvement methodology was to develop a to be system state or the process. And then since this is not a flowchart, it's a model, Mike did something advanced, which is he simulated and compared the as is and to be processes. So he was able to say what the benefits are going to be in terms of cost, in terms of time it takes to complete, and so forth. So he was able to predict what the behavior of the system was going to be using the model. So the system modeling actually, as we show, increases the maturity having this system model to level 3. Now at this next step, we plan the scope, schedule, budget, what we need to do, plan the improvements, and then in the next stage is implement improvements. And this is where change management comes in. And this is where so many times, if people only look at technology or only look at processes, very seldom do they actually look at processes, things don't go so well. So the change management actually requires an understanding of both the people and the processes and the technologies to be done efficiently. And finally, the next step in the improvement methodology, and this is a revised one from what we used in UAIM, this is that we added a component for monitoring performance and impact, which would then allow us to analyze where we are and monitor. And then if we need to make some changes, we would go through the same cycle again. So we have in this year, previously we've looked at processes. This year we've expanded this people column into 3 components: organizational culture, workforce, and change management. So for each of these areas, we will need to now define the maturity models and system models and so forth. So to make it a little bit more scalable and real, because it's difficult to say, okay, let's go change organizational culture. It's a heavy lift. The idea is that we can have a methodology that's scalable and that's real, so that we can, if we look at people and processes, that we start with processes, so that we can organize the people capabilities around the processes, which means we don't have to start by changing everything. We can select something and start from there. So that, for example, if we start with just a couple of processes, then we can use the maturity model for workforce and organizational culture combined with the model for change management, which is actually a business process, so we can use our existing model to look for improvement. So we don't have to boil the ocean and start with the entire organization and so forth. So where we are right now on the project is that we're planning workshops and trying to develop these maturity models for workforce and organizational culture to establish the range of, you could do really well, or you could do, on the other hand, one is you're not doing that well at all. So essentially, we will need to have a mechanism that's equivalent to what we have now for processes in the middle on the people side and also on the technology side. And I can talk about that separately because it's actually being handled on a different project. But we're going to look at on the people side and say, how can we assess the maturity of these 3 things on for specific things that we do, the processes. So the assessment methods then will be used, different assessment, to see where we are with the people side, with processes, with intelligent, with the technology. And so the assessment method has to see how any system, whether it's workforce or intelligent water or technology part, how it actually works. But for that, we kind of have to have an understanding of it. And so this improvement method is kind of the same in principle, but the maturity models would be different. The assessment methods would be different. It could be a survey or something like that. And then we will have the change management as defined as a process. So that's how all this ties together. So this slide, I'm going to be done very soon. So this slide shows how we're going to be working with this. And we have a preliminary definition for the components of the maturity model for organization on the left and for workforce on the right. And the one on the left comes from Patrick Lencioni, and the one on the right comes from Daniel Pink, Mastery, Autonomy, and Purpose, which is for motivation. And we added fairness and inclusion as a fundamental layer. So I'm going to stop the presentation now. Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more slide. So what I'm going to stop the presentation now and show you how we, first of all, open for questions, and also show you how we intend to work with this, because it seems kind of unmanageable. So let me just end the show and stop sharing. Let me see, stop sharing, and I can see you guys again. So what I'm going to do now is, first of all, we're going to open it for questions, but also what I'm going to do is give you some links in the chat to give you a sense for how we would go about having a conversation about these models and what is involved and what we have actually started to do. Let me just send you a chat, in a chat, a link to, give me just 1 second. I've got a lot of stuff going on my side. So I will send you a link to the workspace first. So give me just 1 second. And so now in your chat, you will see a link. When you click on the link, you don't have to give your name, and you'll join a mural session. You don't have to give your name, and just join as a visitor. Just join as a visitor and let me know. I will share my screen again to make sure that we're looking at the same thing.
So if you go to the icon for our conversation, conversations and chat, then you'll see the link.
Yeah, it's right to the left of that button where you hang up, the red button with the phone receiver on it. I'm sorry, that's the people, the cloud next to it, the second one from that button where you hang up.
Yeah, the second from the left. Second
from the right on mine, but maybe
it could be different for different people.
Yeah, so I sent you a thing for Workspace, and so we're all gonna go to the same spot in, and I can see that several of you are already there, and I'm gonna explain what these things are. I see 1, 2, 3. They give you names of animals, so you're gonna be like a giraffe or a snail and things like that, or a crab or whatever. So what you see is these red stickies, and where do they come from? Although the maturity models have a scale from 1 to 5, we're going to start with a 1 and a 5. We're going to fill out the 2, 3, and 4 later. So we were going to build something for the organization maturity model and something for the workforce model. So you can move these things around, but I would advise that maybe you don't move too many things for now. Just to give me a chance to explain, these red stickies are the ones where we had a session on workforce, and we said, okay, what does a terrible situation for workforce look like? And this is what people were saying. All decisions are made at the top, rules, employee initiative-led initiatives are low and stuff like that. And the green stickers are things that people said are really good. So what we're gonna continue with this, and if you look on the left side of your screen, there is a black kind of stripe, and it has a little menus. So there's one that says text, and if you click on that, it should open up some like
so
things.
On the left bar, it's the second from the top. Just click on that and you'll see the stickies appear.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So what the plan is for the workshop to look at things that people have already said, and then have a discussion. Are several of them saying the same thing? Where do they belong? What do they impact? So on the left is really the organizational maturity model, and on the side right is the workforce, which is impacted. Exactly, somebody just moved all decisions are made at the top to control versus authority. So that's exactly where it belongs. So we will have a workshop to have a discussion like that, so that we can move these things around and people can add, and we'll find a balance between participation and chaos, and see how we can do this with, you know, participation, but so I'm going to stop now and see if people have some comments and stuff like that. Any comments or thoughts? I
you
think
could put up your hand or just chime in. Yeah.
Yeah, people are already participating in the workshop because they're moving moving the stickers. But this is the idea, and the reason that we also wanted to have a, how should I say, a discussion of this is an appropriate vehicle, and just to see how people feel about this.
I like the tool. It helps to recreate the in-person stickies that you can't do now. So
that is correct. So that it's supposed to be it's supposed to be, how should I say, the same as having a big whiteboard and the sticky notes and things like that. And there are other features such as polling. So, for example, we have things. I have sun in my face, so it's a little bit difficult for me to read the screen. But you know, employees fear change. People are afraid if they speak out, they'll be punished, and so forth. So maybe we can consolidate some of these. Maybe we can categorize them. But in the end, we would like to describe, we would like to have, let's say with the ones, we'd like to have a list of characteristics. How do you recognize an organization that is on a 1 level, and how do you recognize an organization that's on level 5? We'll work out the details later, but if we define the bookends, the 1 and the 5, then I think it'll be a lot easier to do 2, 3, and 4. So how do you guys feel about this?
Cello, it's really easy to move things around here. I've been doing a good bit of it. I'm assuming that if I click on the sticky notes on the left, I can just make a new one and then put it wherever I want it.
That is correct. That is correct. And I would, the only thing that I would propose is that you stick with the color with the color choices that we have now, the sort of pinkish and the light green, so that we have some sense. So the workshop would this way allow people to participate, but then also there's a voting feature. So we will then be able to say, okay, how do people feel about this, and so that we can get to a manageable number of these things.
And we're just moving things around here that have already been written at this point. I'm assuming, and they all look like they're mostly sort of level 1 activity. Well, we're going to do this multiple times. We're going to do one for level 1 and a different one for level 5.
We can do it that way. The reason that, and we're not going to. It's an open. We were debating whether to have both the organization and the workforce on the same page, or to do them separately so that one group does organization, the other one does the workforce. It's a little bit difficult to untangle the two. So we can see some benefits that it's maybe easier to manage one page at a time, but it's not, you know, because when you do something on the left, it impacts what happens to the workforce. So these are the things that we're planning basically a session. I think it's on Friday. Is it, Scott? On Friday?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we're planning a session for people who are interested in shaping this workshop, and it includes the current leads of these topics, to get together and really design how we're going to go about it, so that it's most productive. So anybody who wants to participate is more than welcome to join. Just ping me, let me know, and I'll send you the invite. And so that once we come to the workshop, and I will also, Zanetta had a really good comment. I'll prepare, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet. Zanetta, I'm late on my homework. Please don't get the ruler out. So, so I'm just kidding.
I have no ruler.
Yeah, so I'm just late with my homework, so I feel guilty. So I will put together a document or a PowerPoint that explain exactly how we're going to do, how to move, what we're going to be doing and stuff like that, so people can prepare ahead of time. I just haven't had a chance to do it. And I hope.
Doug, sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
I'm just going to, pile on a little bit is that, the green was in effect, what the groups had done so far on 5s, in other words, really good. And the pink was the green wasn't intended to be just in workforce. It would be in organizational maturity model as well, and vice versa. The pinks could go over on the right side. And then the other thing is we may wind up, we'll see what the PowerPoint and the instructions are, but when we create new ones, there is that workspace over there, and you can drag, for example, you could drag a pink one like I just did into that space and put in what a new item would be. We could show the new items to everybody and then move them in so that we have some, logic to our process. But, there's a lot of capability in the tool for us to, to do what everybody's working on right now. So that's really cool.
Yeah, this is pretty slick. I'm excited about participating in this.
Oh, good. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one question about this because I know I've had issues with it and I've seen a couple other people do it too. Is there a way we can lock some of it so that it can't be moved? Because like I accidentally moved the whole box for control authority when I wasn't meaning to, and just to stop that kind of thing from happening.
Yes, I can lock some things, no problem. It was just sort of a fundraising thing. I was going to charge people who move things without authorization. I'm just kidding. Yes, I'll lock things so people. I'm not preparing a bill for you, Alice. So that can easily be done.
It's also funny, the one that you ended up moving, Alice, is the control and authority out of everything else.
To follow on Cello's example, Alice sits in the corner with a dunce hat.
That would be great. Could you put like a little virtual dunce hat on me?
I think that would impact our trust and collaboration there if the dunce hat.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to see, was this helpful for everybody to kind of put things in context and see where we're going?
Yeah, I'm ready to do the workshop, actually.
Okay. Well, we're going to, I want to make this kind of collaborative, and we have, the leads who I want to give everybody a chance to contribute in terms of shaping how we do this, and I'm open to changing things. I haven't found a better platform for this kind of collaboration, but does anybody have any thought on whether we should have separate sessions on organization maturity and separate on workforce and then bring them together, or whether we should have two at the, one group of people working on both of these things? I can see good sides and bad sides to these. If we have both of them, we don't have as much real estate on the screen for the sticky notes, but they are so connected. So maybe these are the types of things that we would discuss on Friday, and I would really like your input.
Well, real estate issues aside, I'm leaning towards a joint session on this, just because I can even see if you could just copy some of these stickies and then have it on both sides. And it would be nice to be able to see that in real time between the two groups.
Okay.
Such as a results-oriented activities for level 5 result in mastery of work on the workforce side, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Mert, if we did that, a variation of that, since we could have 45 or 50 people, that we could have 2 different sessions that are integrated is one option if we wanted to integrate the groups, because just the logistics of dealing with so many people, you know, and making sure that everybody has reasonable participation, you know, we'd need to consider that. Zanetta, you had your hand up.
Yes, sir. Is it possible, just like what you were saying, because I know in Zoom you can have breakout rooms, and divide it up and then come back. You know what I mean? Just like it kind of simulate what we actually would do in a workshop. In person.
Yeah, it's an excellent. Yeah.
Have the different groups and then report back out, and then whatever's overlap, combine them at the end. Because I think it's going to be very, very difficult to put everybody together and get participation.
Yes, I'm exploring this, Zanetta. It's an excellent comment. I'm exploring this. By the way, for folks who have joined recently, I did post the link, and you would join as a visitor. I think Joseph just joined. So if you click on that link, it will take, you can join as a visitor. You don't have to give your name if you don't want to, and it will put you to the page that everybody else is looking at. And so on
Fridays, Annetta, that's an issue that we want to explore. I mean, these are all good ideas.
You see, one of the things that I have to figure out is I need to have way to test this, and it's difficult to test. I tested everything that I can test on my own, but for some of the things to test them, I need to have other people, and I need to find some victims who are, you know, prepared to spend some time being, you know what I mean? I need at least,
yeah. We talked about having, you know, a dry run, quick through, and you know, a focused group of people to do that. That's my stupid other phone. And sorry about that. Yeah, and that would kind of help figure it out, because it's like from you know, if you don't have, and let everybody know, like if you, you know, search engines that you can use, like for instance, my laptop wants to automatically go to Internet Explorer. It won't work. So those kind of things, you got to use Google Chrome. So we can get those instructions out, so that'll help eliminate some of that up front, so that we're not wasting an hour, or not wasting, losing an hour or 45 minutes doing something else, trying to get the kinks worked out. So I think all of this was excellent ideas.
Makeda, I'm sorry. Makeda, you had your hand up, and Doug did too.
Yeah, I am 100% agree with Zanetta, actually. So but the breakout rooms, I think it's really great to look at both the organizational maturity model and the workforce next to each other, so that people can see the connection between both models, so that they're not forgetting the workforce, or not, you know, forgetting that the workforce maturity needs to tie back to organizational maturity. So I think those breakouts, and then consolidating to connect the dots for people. Yeah, and I know logistically it will be a challenge, so I volunteer myself to help with any things around that as well.
Makeda, just so I understand, you were thinking about having 2 breakout session, but you would want to have both workforce and culture in each session. Is that correct?
I mean, either or. I think, you know, there's pros and cons to both. I think separating them, having one workforce and one organizational, allows people to self-select into the one that they're most interested in, and also it's easier to see. I know I was having trouble seeing some of the stuff, easier to navigate, and then we can pull them back to connect the dots, or we can just combine, but that might be more of a challenge logistically.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have a, you know, I don't really know. I'm struggling to figure out what's better myself, and I see Doug had a hand up. Thank you, Makeda.
No problem.
Yeah, I guess I echo both the ladies' comments, in that I know I'm challenged with how many calls I already have in a week, so I can't participate in all the groups. But in a workshop like this, I'd certainly like to be able to participate in all of it somehow. And so we'll have to work the logistics out because I'd like to have input on sort of both sides of this. So, maybe bringing it back together and having a joint discussion that the folks who didn't participate in the original part can still do it might satisfy that itch. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can also email me if you think of something after the call today. I see Scott has his hand up.
I was just going to mention change management team would also be participating in this, and that's really important because change management is going to be about taking this kind of maturity and then say, what do we do with it in terms of changing from an as is to a to be in an organization, and what does that process look like? Makeda, for example, presented the EDCAR model on a process for how you run through that. And so they're, even though they aren't, contributing as much so far on workforce and organizational culture, they definitely have a big interest in it and understanding it. So that's going to be cool too. So it's really the three groups are actually going to be participating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So think about how we can get even participation for those folks that want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm going to do the best that I can, and we'll have this meeting on Friday. As I said, if anybody who wants to participate in that meeting on Friday to plan the workshops, please just send me an email. I'll send you the invite. We're trying to figure out what would work best, and before then, I'm going to try to find some folks to help me test the breakout groups and the voting and things like that.
Cello, when were you planning to have the meeting tomorrow?
What's today? Thursday.
Today's
Oh,
Thursday.
Friday's tomorrow. Shoot. Where did my week go?
I thought it was outside the joke.
No.
Flat circle in 2020, right? It's just.
It starts at noon Eastern to 2. It's 2 hours. It starts at noon Eastern.
So 9 o'clock here.
Yeah. So it is. Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to take 2 hours. I really don't know, but I'll try to do some testing tonight. I don't want to use people's time to be testing different things, but I'll do the best I can to get stuff ready for this. Scott, you have a hand up.
Well, I was just going to say that there's also potentially people, if they like, I'm thinking of people like Dan Ott, who I might be on this call, who's, I don't know if he's on one of the people teams or not, but there may be some interest from those teams in participating as well. So we could have a fairly sizable group, and we're going to need to take that into account. The point I wanted to make also is that what you saw at the front end of the today's meeting, where Cello ran through the slides, he's making a video out of that, and that would be a homework assignment for people to look at. So we don't have to go run back through that, but they would have that context as well, especially for people who haven't been participating as actively, because you all have seen that the model a number of times, most of you, but there will be some participants that haven't. So basically Cello's taking it on to do that, and that's going to be good background. It won't be long, but that would be a homework assignment for people.
Yeah, so that is, we had a couple of people who had to leave. So that is what we were trying to do today, and sort of, get everybody on the same page. Are there any questions about that slide presentation, the improvement methodology and all that? If I will post the video of this meeting as soon as, once we're done with today, so you can, if you remember something, you can go back to the video and find some, or whatever questions you have, whatever I can answer will be very helpful.
Hey, Cello, I just have one sort of observation or suggestion, is that in the slide presentation, you're showing change management as having a maturity model, but I think the way we've talked about it, it isn't. It's the process that where you get from one place on a maturity model to another place on a maturity model. So, but in the graphic, you have it as change management having its own maturity model. So I think that needs to be reconciled somehow.
We can reconcile. What I did is the Association for Change Management, they publishes this manual, and the EDCAR, they both kind of, and some other, define change management as a process. It's something that you do. So what I used is here is a generic CMMI business process model, but we can redefine the characteristics. We can say, we can use what's there. So let me give you an example. If we apply that model, one of the criteria would be, do you have your change management process documented? Is there a document that shows exactly how you go about it? Does it have any metrics associated with it? Does it have, you know what I'm saying? Is it so we can start with a generic framework and then adjust it to what fits here, but it doesn't. I've struggled to find. I've looked for models that are sort of broadly accepted, not just in water sector, but in general. You know, on the workforce side, I used this Daniel Pink, which is really motivation, and we added this. So we tried not to reinvent the wheel as much as possible. So we can. I'm totally open to customizing that maturity model. But at least we have a foundation for it. That one comes from Carnegie Mellon, from Software Engineering Institute, and it was originally done for software development. But we can, tweak that and change it to however it's,
And Mike Sweeney is familiar, for example, with a model that he's used for asset management, where it's like, to what extent have you documented the process? To what extent have you developed the process actually before that? To what extent have you applied it? And to what extent is it effective for you in terms of the metrics that you define and so forth, and with characteristics underneath that. So there are definitely some models that are out there that, that we can adapt to this specific kind of challenge. That could be pretty cool, and that would be important work for the change team to go work on also. So that could be a good deliverable and product that they could produce.
I just want to make one quick comment. I just want to, and I don't know how to do it, but I would just suggest us to be cautious about how to kind of simplify it for people who haven't been involved. For us, who've been involved with it multiple years, I think we kind of follow it. But to me, for somebody new, there's a disconnect if you've never done it before. It's kind of overwhelming looking at it, even for us who've done it. So I would try to maybe kind of simplify it a little bit. And then I still would think we really need to, as part of that team, really try to hone in what we want as our outcomes for this. Because I think that's why we're kind of struggling now, is because we haven't defined what we want to be as our deliverables. And we're going to, we're out here, we're going to have to bring it here. And if we make it out here, that's fine. But, overproduce, but under expectations, I guess, but kind of really try to, and maybe that'll help a little bit. But I really just want to caution that in terms of how we present that to people that are just coming in, because to me, I would be lost.
No, it's a good point, and I always go back to that first workshop we had in 2017, February of 2017, at the Utility Management Conference, where we utilities have already signed on. They're really, really excellent people there. And we spent all day talking about business processes. And at the end, each person separately came to me and said, Cello, what exactly are we doing here? What are we going to get at the end? So it took a while. and I'm doing my best, but it just takes a little bit to get used to it, because people are so immersed in the day-to-day problem solving, in the day-to-day crisis, that to take a couple of steps back, it just takes a little while. And so I'm writing them down. So I think another homework I'm getting is to actually mock up what a result could be. And I don't know if I can do it before tomorrow, but hopefully, for tomorrow's meeting. But I will mock something up in the next week or so.
Yeah,
Doug Stewart. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just really think that we just really try to set the expectation outline so that you can get the input, especially from those who are new that are coming in and have like Miss Alice has a fresh look at it. That it's something, but it's like trying to find the earring on the floor. We're all been looking at it, and then somebody just new comes in and finds it right there. So that's the thing that just to be careful with that. And I don't have an answer, Dr. Cello. I always have an opinion, but
no.
I just think that's something that we just need to be aware of, and how to mitigate that with the time frame. But this is a challenge. It's a challenge when we're all together. Taking it virtual is and you are commended for the work and your steadfastness to get this done. So I don't want you to take it as I'm being critical, because it's just difficult.
Yeah, it would be difficult if we had like an all day to be in a room with a whiteboard, and we could, even the interactions are different and stuff like that, Yeah. And I just want to let not everybody know not to have any. I'm as boring in person as I am here, so but that part wouldn't improve that much. So I see Doug has his hand up.
I just have a request, Cello. I appreciate you posting the video right away, but if you could post the slides too, because we went through the slides really quickly in the video, and I'd like to spend a little time reading them. So
yeah, slides.
Slides up.
Let me give you the link. I can put the link in the chat if you give me just a second, and then I want to be careful. Where is my what is going on?
So while he's doing that, maybe Makeda, coming, from the change team as well, is this making sense to you?
No, it is making sense, and I'm glad that we're having these conversations and sort of planning out, especially how to incorporate people, what is the deliverable, how are we going to give them background information. It does all make sense. Yeah. And I think anything we can do to sort of, give people more background helps build their awareness before they come in. So then they'll come in with some ideas prepped and things like that, so that they can jump right in.
Yeah, Mike Stahl, you're one of our tremendous experts on the, business process side. How does this look to you?
Yeah, I think it's looking good. It's, I've struggled with the whole business process for people type thing from the beginning, because the thing that Cello had in that maturity model right in the middle of it is standardized, and there's nothing standard about people, right? And so I'm really interested to see where this group goes with that, because you can do the same reaction over and over with people and you're going to get all kinds of reactions, right? So I'm interested to see where we go with this.
Good. And Joseph, Doug, you had your hand up, and then maybe Joseph, who's made it into our meeting, maybe we could get a little feedback from him before we close out, right? Doug, you're on mute.
It seems as if we're not trying to standardize responses with this, with the whole people set of topics, but we're trying to standardize a set of processes that we use along with the business process maps. Right? And so we look at it from that perspective. If you're an organization just starting into looking at culture, well, here's the tools you use at level 1. And if you're already at the top of the chart, here are the tools you should be using at level 5. So it gives people another set of practices to bring in while they're trying to implement business process changing and business process improvement. It's kind of how.
Yeah, and I think that one thing to consider is that we don't really have this kind of stuff in the water sector yet. That's why it's a bit of a struggle, but that's also why it's so exciting, because I think that what we can do is, if we can, I struggled for years with these types of things because I started as 100% geek, and it took me 40 years to get to a 98% geek. And in the beginning, I was running into walls, not understanding why some things that technically made sense could never happen, and stuff like that. So if we can help some young clueless cellos down the line, it'll be really good, because they wouldn't look like this by the time they start figuring it out.
I came at asset management 20 years ago from an engineering background, and I was just thinking here on this call this morning that I'd have given my right arm to have this toolbox 20 years ago when I started asset management, because a lot of what I did I learned the hard way. And I think this is fantastic what we're putting together here. It's really the whole toolbox that people need in the industry that we always have to struggle to sort of pull together from multi-disciplines. It's nice to have it sort of in one spot for people to have access to it.
Folks, just to let you know, I did put into the chat line the link to the slide deck. I will still be working on it. I mean, it has some annoying things about it because when you run it, at some point there are still some sound files embedded, and you'll start hearing me talking. So it still needs a little work. You can go look at it, but I'll update it over the weekend.
So Joseph, can you hear us? Did you have any comments? And Dan Ott is still on the line as well.
Hey, good morning. I apologize. I showed up late, and I'm actually doing something that you should never try to do, which is try to get on 2 conference calls at the same time. A lot of things are going on at the same time here, but I haven't. I've been paying attention passively. The only thing I would say is on our end, and Cello and I had a chance to connect offline last week. The way I look at it, and I don't know if it's fair, when it comes to some of these issues, it's really about problem solving in terms of how it's shifting our culture. And so a lot of people that have been in our organization for a very long time, it seems that you have people that contribute to the culture, people that sort of passively operate in that culture, but at some point we all have that responsibility to course correct. So I'm looking forward to implementing what we are talking about here, and hopefully I'll be able to contribute a little bit more in subsequent conversations. But thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'm moving the sticker for those who can see. This is Joseph's sticker, problem solvers versus problem admirers. So I just want to say I appreciate everybody's time. And just a second. I appreciate everybody's time. And I have this like 25-minute a day situation where I have, Dan
Ott and
excellent.
Yeah, there may be some others.
Yeah, Dan.
Kathleen might be on the phone as well.
I'm going to piggyback on what Joseph said. He came in late. I've been on the call, but I've been mutually distracted by lots of things. So if you could kind of just recap what's the next steps, what's the next action on where we're headed with this. I'm going to echo what Doug said. I really think the maturity tool is awesome, and it's helpful to see that. Number one, to know where we are. I'll say we're guilty here at Casey Water of wanting to go to level 5 when we're at level 1 or 2, and it's like, you know what? Let's start where we are and try and progress, as opposed to, like you said, boiling the ocean with everything we do. So anyway, yeah, if you could give us kind of a recap on where we're headed, that would help me a lot.
Yes, we're planning a workshop to start defining the characteristics for the maturity, different levels of maturity for workforce and organizational culture, and then to integrate this with the change management. We will have a call tomorrow to start planning that workshop and to find the balance between full participation and engagement and chaos and something that's manageable. So we're going to be using Mural. We're going to be using these kinds of tools to collaborate and get everybody engaged. And we may have, and our end goal is to develop the characteristics for the maturity so that we could have the same thing we had for processes that we had for organizational culture and for the workforce. Okay.
Doug, you still have your hand up.
Okay, so I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. I know you probably have wall-to-wall conference calls, and some people had to leave us. I'm going to stop recording, and